We are back, and as you can see, we are once again. Well, I was going to say we were in a league mechanic, but it turns out we are actually in the ship graveyard, and we are searching around for something that we need. So let's figure out what it is. Actually, you can see right underneath the map the quests that you have. If they're golden, remember they are your main quests. If they are blue, they are your side quests. So the Marooned Mariner tells me I need to go back to town, which is Lion Eyes Watch. The Siren's Cadence tells me I need to also go back to Lion Eyes Watch. The Way Forward says I need to find another way to the forest. Chances are I am in the ship graveyard currently looking around to find another way into the forest. As you can see, whenever I have charges for my movement speed potion, I am pretty much using them all of the time, and I am using Frost Blink to cover distances a little quicker, and I am just focusing on pretty much any and every enemy that I can find, bursting them down with Spark while allowing my minions to essentially do body blocking, potentially stunning, and getting more damage in overall. I'm actually pretty excited whenever I come into a group of enemies because I get to use their corpses to summon new zombies, new skeletons, new whatever else. And they also give me EXP, so it's overall a win-win for me. I just want to be near enemies. So there's the ship graveyard cave. I did not see it beforehand. Just caught wind of it. As you can see, I move slow whenever I'm in that black tar. The black tar drops from those enemies. Just as a heads up, if you had not noticed it on your own thus far. Here we are now in the cave. We have finally entered a whole new area. I've leveled up. I decided to level up all of my gems, and now we get to hit this big mastery. It lets you choose what it is you want to pick. I'm trying to figure out what would probably be the best bet for me right now in this moment. Unholy Might is chaos damage. Whoop. You see how I drag down while doing that 9 times out of 10. This is me alt-tabbing. If you don't use a computer, alt-tabbing is just opening up another window so that you can figure out like how to do things like on a different window, like changing over to see something different. And chances are I alt-tabbed to go to Google search different things to figure out what it is that I would want to use. And before I could make my decision, I decided to keep looking at things that are near me to figure out what would be the best path forward. Do I want to keep going for damage, or do I want to switch it up and go for defense? Do I think the defensive tree and the masteries and stuff would benefit me a little bit more where I am right now, or do I think damage could end up helping me? So I'm looking at all the nodes that are glowing that have minion in them and deciding whether or not it would be helpful, and I'm also zooming out to see what all other nodes I could end up pathing to if I so chose, and in this way, it helps me better decide, like I said, what it is, whether or not I want to go for more damage or defense. Usually, in the beginning of pretty much any game like this, you're pretty much going to go for damage almost 100% of the time, or people usually do. That way you can cut through things a lot quicker, and I suppose about the time you start feeling your damage fall off is when you start going for defense. And if you're wondering, what do you mean by damage fall off? I just mean by your damage not doing as much as what it once was doing beforehand. So when you start finding enemies becoming significantly stronger, me personally, I occasionally swap to defense because that means those enemies have the opportunity to hit me significantly more, and I want to protect myself. And then when I feel like my defense is pretty solid, I will start building damage again. But as you can see, for the mastery that I did pick in the passive tree, I actually went for my minions having, I believe it was a 50% chance of lowering enemy physical damage reduction. Or if it's not 50% chance, then I always lower their damage reduction by 50%, but only through my minions. Which all of this really just means that whenever my minions, the ones that fight up close and personal, whenever they go touching enemies, they're going to do more damage, right? And that's ultimately what I'm wanting, right? I want my minions to be in front. I want them to take charge. I want to lead the way, but I want them to be like a wall of power around me so that I am never really having to worry about enemies touching me first. And even if they did, I would want my minions to be able to do the most damage possible whenever possible. We are still in the graveyard cave, and we are just roaming around looking for the next door, but also finding as many enemies as we can find for the most amount of EXP possible, as well as any kind of currency and or potential items that we could use. Now, that cave essentially was just a loop-de-loop. We came out the other door and it led us here. As you can see, I'm opening the map and figuring out where to go next. The Cavern of Wrath would be the next best choice. As you can see, I double checked just to be sure. You touch the waypoint to know where you are at, and I need to travel to Lion Eyes Watch to turn in my 2 quests, so I come back to Lion Eyes Watch. By now, if you had not known, the Cavern of Wrath is, I think, the last place you're going to go before you jump into the next chapter of campaign. So we are focusing on getting ready for what it is we're going to face. It's kind of like a known thing that the boss at the end of this chapter fights with cold damage. So if you have gear that gives you cold resistance, you are safest. So any kind of amulets or rings that give it, or if your basic gear has at least some, you'll be a little bit better off for the fight. And I just pick gear like that passively when I come around these points. So you may see me swap to gear that's got cold resistance at the very last minute, whether it's because I crafted on it, bought it, or found it, and that's just because I know it's coming next. Right now, I'm swapping out my gems based off of some stuff that I found in shop. I believe I actually swapped from Spark to Arc, I believe is the name of the skill. And it's just another lightning skill, but in this case, I figured it would be a little bit more fun to use rather than Spark. That it was just my personal preference. I'm not building lightning damage, so to be honest, it could have been a skill that used fire, could have been a skill that used ice, it could have been a skill that used blood. It doesn't matter because pretty much all of my damage is going to come from either spell damage or minion damage. And because we don't have a lot of points for minions quite yet, it's going to be my main source of damage currently will be spell damage. So as you can see, I'm just swapping one spell for another, and then I'm going to my passive tree, my skill tree, to figure out what skill would be the best bet and be the general best pick for what it is I want to do next. So I'm pathing, as you can see, to the left, where I have 2 big chunky nodes that are side by side, and they all deal with minion stuff. So this will just be an overall win for me. At least that's what I'm thinking at this time. As you can see, I changed my gems, and I've also changed some extra stuff. So I've gone back to my basic attack because I did not like using this flaming skull. I've got clarity back on to help with my mana, and as you can see with Arc, it's like chain lightning where I hit an enemy and it bounces around them. If I was going for like a lightning kind of startup, this would have been so perfect, but that's just not what I want to do. So instead of using lightning as my main source of damage, it's my minions, but my minions aren't super fast and aren't super strong to be keeping up with me quite yet. So the game plan now is to keep building damage for my minions and then just use some extra skill that will help me do damage until my minions become more useful. And as you can see, majority of the stuff I'm killing without my minions fairly comfortably, even with no extra damage actually into lightning, and the general area I'm in is a lower level than what I actually am. I am blanking on my actual level right now, but I believe this area is 12 is what I believe that says, if not 17. And I've got a feeling that whatever level it is, I'm about 3 to 5 levels over. Just from leveling, playing with the League mechanic, which I didn't even do a lot of, but if you were focusing on being on the ship significantly more often, you'd probably be 4 to 5 levels over whatever it is I am right now. And then the extra skill points we got from turning in quests also helped and essentially makes us a higher level even when we actually aren't. So now we have 2 main missions, the Siren's Cadence, which now says to kill Merville, and the Way Forward, which now is to find another way to the forest. So our game plan is to do that, and we're just searching through and cutting through the general area until we can get to where it is we need to get to. Okay, so we are pushing through the Cavern of Wrath, and we're making it to the Cavern of Anger. As you can see, it was a pretty simple straight shot kind of way. There are ghosts that talk to you. We got these enemies that are blue, and we're leveling up as we fight them, moving or continuously moving through. By this point, I'm still moving over to the left. It's taking some time because I'm stopping to see if there's anything else I could go for before I hit something to the left, and if it would be worth my time. And personally, I just thought it would be more beneficial to hit the points on the left. So that's where I'm headed. Yes, it's going to give me attribute points for things that I might not necessarily need in this moment, like dexterity, but I figured it's worth the cost, it's worth the sacrifice to get the points for minion stuff that I want. Mind you, you can undo points if something goes wrong by speaking to NPCs that let you respecialize your points for gold, or by using the skill books that you've ate essentially through your side quests. Whenever you turn them in, you will have permanent points that you can use to respec, and that way you don't have to waste gold doing it. Currently in this moment, I have no reason to respec, and I might a little later on down the line, but right now we're just running and getting to meet Merville. So I'm using Frostblink to teleport to these different parts of the game and see if there's anything hidden. If you want to be able to do so, you're going to need a skill that lets you cross those gaps, like we talked about a video or two ago, where you can teleport and or leap slam over from point A to point B. You just get to the very edge, make sure you're running, walking, facing that general direction, and then you travel across. Pretty straightforward, pretty smooth. I am keeping clarity on. Some of you may be asking why. It's just the general mana regen. I tend to burn it pretty quick because I'm attacking pretty quick, and I use Frostblink pretty often as well as attack pretty often. We are now in Merville's lair. This is the first actual main boss you will find in the Axe, right outside of Hillock from tutorial. She shoots ice at you. As you can see, she's killed my minions, so I only have one left, and he's just died. He was fighting for his life. Something very cool about this boss is that when she dies, she has a second phase where she fights harder and faster. She's also transformed, but something that's actually really cool is that she summons enemies for you to fight, and these summons essentially make it so that you gain charges back for health, for your health flasks, your mana flasks, your movement speed flasks, and you can use these enemies' corpses to summon minions if you have a minion build. So that's what I did. It came in clutch. And congratulations, once you killed her and walked through those doors, you have finished Act 1. I go back to Act 1 because you can actually talk to NPCs just about everything that's happened. They get you hooked back in with the lore. You can change stuff in your stash. You can move gems around. And I think there's a quest or two a little later on that will want you to come back to Lion Eyes Watch in Act 1. So, just because you finished Chapter 1, Act 1, does not mean that you cannot return to it if you so choose. So here we are. We're now at the start of Act 2. We're in the forest. We're following the way forward, which is now to find the forest encampment. Alright? Just so you know, the forest encampment, oh my goodness. The forest encampment is your first town in Act 2. Really your only town. You have one usually for each act. So the game plan now is to make it there. We're pushing, we're fighting. Once again, I go for anything that's golden and anything that's blue. The enemy's levels have gone up because we are no longer in Act 1. I believe that says 13, if not 18. My view of it is a little bit different, so it's a little bit difficult for me to see. Either way, I'm still a higher level than whatever it is I'm fighting. I'm pretty confident about that just because, you've been seeing me level up back to back, and all these extra skill points essentially count as bonus levels. So, I pick up that greater mana flask because chances are it's going to be better than a mana flask I have. We're checking the general amount that they give, and the mana flask that I just put on might have had a smaller number towards mana that I can get back, but that number was blue, meaning I leveled up. What is that? If it's not 18, then it's 15, but I think it's 18. But the number on my mana flask was blue, which means that my mana flask is magic. You can turn your flasks into magic just like you can your gear, and they can come with special properties that can be super helpful. So even though it's a smaller number than what I've had, if I like the properties on it, it might benefit me more than the one that I had, like getting my magic back immediately or something of that sort. So now we're in town, just like in Act 1. You run around, you talk to everybody. As you can see, talking to this NPC lets me specialize, like re-specialize for skill points, but I can also gamble. You can gamble gold for items that might be more beneficial for what it is you're doing. Personally, I don't feel a need to do it right this moment. So now I'm going to start my quest line in the old fields, and we will stop here.